On the bench today is an Apple Macintosh Centris 650. I actually already got this working, but today we're going to convert it into a Quadra 650 and bump up the clock a little bit. Let's dig in. Before we dig into the hardware, I wanted to establish a baseline by benchmarking this machine with speedometer. Before starting this, I've noticed that some combination here is causing the graphics test in speedometer to hard crash the machine every time it runs. We'll avoid it this time around, and I guess we'll figure that out later. Okay, we have a CPU that is 16 times the rating of a Mac Classic, which probably isn't that accurate, but we'll take it. Looks pretty good though. So we'll save this. Break it. So here we are, Centris 650. We take off the single rear screw, and I guess the power supply support screw. With any luck, this slides and off. So obviously I've been in here before. As I mentioned earlier, I was in here just to clean off the board, and it booted, so I didn't think that was a very interesting video. But then the next step obviously is. So we have our off-brand blue SCSI here, which I've mentioned on Twitter, but not here, but it is kind of crap. I bought it on Amibay, and this is it after cleaning, which is kind of wild. Soldering is not great. There are things that are kind of loose, but it's functional. So what are you going to do? So from here, Centris 650 is actually pretty easy. You've got your power supply, which is basically pressure fitted in, and then you've got a few screws with this whole base on it. So what I'm going to do to make it easier is I'm going to grab my tabs of this CD-ROM. So by pulling this forward, I can pull out this power supply, and then I'll pull out these SCSI cables. Pulling out the power supply is actually pretty easy. You just kind of pull back on this tab, and then this little metal tab allows you to basically pull up on the power supply. So the tab is out, and now we pull straight up. Problem, of course, is usually this is anchored pretty well in here. So keep in mind, this isn't going to feel good. Also, your top power plug back here is going to get caught on the way up. So once it gets there, just kind of push in gently on the back. It'll slide up and out. And then as you can see, this guy right here fits in this guy down here. Now the semi-easy part. The SCSI cable, floppy cable, and then down here is your power cable, and it's got a little notch you got to pull out, and then over here is your CD audio cable, and then it's just screws. There's one here, there's one hiding back here, right down below on the drive cage here. And once those are out, this swings up, and then there's a little notch here, little notch here. And if you've pulled out all your cables, that comes free easily. And now your board's exposed. So, one thing I didn't do while I was in here last time is put my battery cover back. My battery's fine, so put that back. Over here are your SIM slots. Over here are your VRAM slots. Here's your CPU, your NuBus slots. To pull out this board, just to give you a quick idea of what we're going to try to do here, right here is the crystal, and this crystal is a 12.5 megahertz crystal, which gives you 25 megahertz. I don't know what rating the CPU is, but they can usually be stretched pretty far. But we're going to remove this crystal. I'm going to put a little socket in its place and put a standard crystal in there. To take out the board, it's pretty easy. There is one screw. Take out the speaker connector. Then we lift up our interrupt switches. Then it just pulls back to get it free of the ports, and then you can lift up and out of the case. Case isn't needed anymore. And we are back to just the board. So now, a slightly more difficult part. We're going to leave the SIMs on for now. We need to change out a resistor. So the resistor in question is going to be R152, which doesn't exist. And we have to desolder R151, which is right here. So this one's got to go. And then we're going to put a new resistor at R151. Let's see if we can get in a little bit. So we're going to start with our friend at 151. So now slightly too much solder, but that will work. So that little mod gives us a Quadra 650. And now we get to use a cheap little, dumb little hack. So, a little bit of cheating here. I had a hard time with this one. The things that I have a hard time with versus the things I don't have a hard time with don't make much sense. But over here, we have this fine little thing. This little guy here is just a socket adapter with 2 extra pins. And what I have done is, you might be able to see it on this camera angle, but I have the far pins clipped slightly and then tied in with the 4 pins on here. This is not my idea. This is actually from another person who has already overclocked a Centris 650, who was kind enough to put this on here. So link in the description below. Thank you very much. It made life a little easier. I originally thought it was unnecessary. I was going to get a smaller oscillator, but why? Why when you can just kind of get a normal one and then it's easier to find replacements if you have to? So at the end of the day, actually pretty easy. So I'm going to go ahead and put this oscillator in. This is a 20 megahertz crystal oscillator, which will result in a 40 megahertz clock. Now with the resistor in place, the oscillator in place, I'm going to try to boot this thing up and see what happens. So I think this time I'm not going to bother putting it in the case, just in case I did screw something up. Well, that is a heck of a good sign. The less good sign is, where is my mouse? You know what I forgot? I forgot a system enabler. I don't really have a way out of this. Unless I get creative. So let's get creative. I'll be right back. Well, we are not stable at this speed. So, do I want to see what's in here? I don't, do I? Well, I mean, on the bright side, it's an actual 68040, but it's only rated for 25 megahertz. Do I downclock for now? Probably. Well, that's significantly better. So unfortunately, our baseline is a little different because now we're running off a different boot here. So it's not claiming a speed here. I wonder if it'll run all tests. So that's interesting. I think the system that I had on here, there was something wrong, something missing, so that it could not run that. So we went from a 16 to a 20 on the CPU. Naturally, we couldn't test graphics before. Slight improvement on disk for some reason, but a good improvement on math. That's kind of cool. Just that little bump from 25 megahertz to 32 megahertz. That's pretty decent. That is very cool.
To 6 days later.
Now that we've shown that we can get to 32 megahertz, I grabbed a different 68040. So let's pull this out. We'll run the new one at 33 just to make sure it boots, and then maybe we can push it a little more. So I'm going to pull Mr. CD Audio out. Came off a little too easily, and it's really hard to see. Look at that, 6804025. So I don't have an 040 puller, so we're going to just very gently coax this out of its own. This has a bent pin. Kind of wish the seller would have said that in order to make this show up. You see there in the corner? There, this guy right here. So with that, let's boot it first at 33. Make sure it boots. And then let's bump it up. Shall we? Alright. Let's pump this up. $20 MHz crystal should give us 40 megahertz. Interesting. At 33 megahertz to 40 megahertz shouldn't make that big of a difference. I wonder if it's RAM. So you can't really see it under here. What if I can get some assistance here from Mr. Crappy Can? I have 4 sims installed here. I can't focus. That's 80. Right behind here, I can see 60. Not labeled. Also not labeled. So we have a hodgepodge here. No RAM. I'm just going to go ahead and boot this and just see if there's a difference. Oh. So that boots. If I look at this RAM, I think side camera will give me something. No, we can't focus very well at all. But anyway, on this chip, this says 60 nanoseconds. So I have 3 60s and 1 80. I'm willing to bet that 80 is too slow, or maybe they all are. Maybe I need something faster. But let's just pop in the 60s here. And I think I can install 3. Look at that. It boots. So let's see what the difference is. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to make you sit through it. But here's our original. And when I edit, I'm going to fast forward. So with the tests done, we went from 16 to 26 for a CPU mark. Obviously, most of these math scores went up, FPU went up. Don't have a video test because, well, we remember what happened before. It's kind of fun seeing that the disk doesn't change. So the increase in CPU bus speed did not change the SCSI bus at all, which is kind of great, honestly. So that's 40 megahertz. I wonder if we can do even more. So just pull on the 20 megahertz crystal, and I have this 24 here. I really kind of doubt it, but hey, let's try. So, booting it up. No, it hates that a whole bunch. Well, it was worth a shot. Well, I think that's it. I think I have a 650 here that is able to run successfully at 40 megahertz. I do need to order some more RAM, I think. But beyond that, like, this is going to make a great AUX machine. Oh, AUX. Yes, yes, AUX. Holy moly, that's slow. But, look at that. We're reporting as a Quadra 650. Still have enough RAM for this thing, which is nice. But hot dang. I have AUX at 40 megahertz. How cool. Alright, I'm reasonably excited. With that, I think I'm going to shut this thing down, get this loaded up on the shelf, and move on to the next one. I'll see you all next time.